spur of the moment type of discussion here, but and we've all had these types of moments where the slightest little thing, no matter what it is, just makes your day, it makes your week because it was so unexpected. And that happened to me just a couple days ago. And something as simple as this, let me show it to you. It's not much, but when you find your favorite ball cap and you haven't been able to find it for a while, it just makes your day. It seems silly, trivial, whatever you want to call it. But and I usually don't wear fitted hats. I mean, I have them, but they always seem to either too big or they just kind of shrunk because of again the sweat and everything, and it just eventually that fabric in there, it just because again some of it's made out of wool, there's cotton in there, it shrinks. This hat has always kept its form, kept its shape, and I kind of knew I had it somewhere, but then I couldn't find it. And you start thinking, okay, maybe it's ended up somewhere, and out of the blue, because you put things away because you want to be able to find them. With me, I put things away and I can never find them because I'm sometimes just, such a slob at times, leaving things here, leaving things there, and you put them away, and it's gone. Well, I ended up finding it. Now, the other side to this is that I always kind of had another one on hand. This is much newer, a couple of years ago. Let me walk you through. I mean, just so you know what this is all about. I mean, it's if you're not into baseball, if you're not into the minor leagues or the independent leagues of baseball, this means nothing to you. But if you've got your favorite hats and your caps and things like that, this could be something that I'm sure you've experienced as well. So if you weren't familiar with this team, the Somerset Patriots, right? They are not, they're called minor league, but they're really an independent team. Independent meaning that they're not affiliated with any type of major league market. They were part of the Atlantic League. I guess the Atlantic League. Yeah, I guess that was just it, the Atlantic League. So an independent team started in '98, I believe, 1998. And I don't remember all the teams that started with them, along that route, but it was them. Within a 2-year span, that league became the Somerset Patriots, the Bridgeport Bluefish up in Connecticut, the Long Island Ducks, the Camden River Sharks. I know I'm missing a couple of other obvious ones in there. There was Newark Bears. So there's about 6 to 8 teams, I guess, in there. The league is still around today, but it looks very different. You've got a lot of teams in the southeast now. You've got Gastonia, you've got a team up in High Point. I think there's a team even in Houston now, out in Sugar Land, if that's the Houston area. So it looks very different. But at that time frame in '98, actually early 2000s, and I'm pretty sure I got this hat in around 2000, 2002-ish, 2003. And it was my go-to for almost everything. Um, love going to the I love going to minor league games, right? Aside from the Atlantic League where I was in New Jersey, you had another league that's defunct now, which was the New York-Penn League, which I thought was fantastic, with about 12 teams. New York-Penn League was really the guys who were just signed coming out of college. But some names that came out of the New York-Penn League were Don Mattingly and Randy Johnson off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more, but those were the guys that, when you're looking for big names, those are the ones that come to mind first. But the New York-Penn League had the New Jersey Cardinals, which is where I went to a lot of those games. They became independent because the Cardinals ended up moving the single A, the low single A, I guess, or whatever. It had another name maybe, out into Pennsylvania somewhere. But it was then you had at that when they were at their biggest, it was the Cardinals, it was the Staten Island Yankees, Brooklyn Cyclones. I think are all still part of that league right now. Batavia, Jamestown, Auburn, the Double Days, which was a cool name, Oneonta up in New York. So it was a small league, and I loved going to those games because it was so small, maybe a couple thousand on a good night. You just sat there, you enjoyed a baseball game, got a hot dog, the 2-for-1s or the 50-cent nights, whatever it was. Um, to me, that was baseball. That was just a great night out, and that's what the independent league was, at least the Atlantic League in my eyes. Very similar, a little bit bigger in a way as far as the fan base, but still really good. This particular team, the Somerset Patriots, were out of Bridgewater, New Jersey. If you ever been to that area, right off of 287, it's either exit 10 or exit 13, might even be exit 17. It's one of those. But it was right there, literally. You sat in the stands, and over the outfield wall, if you look beyond it, you would see 287. So always had loved going to the stadiums to see these games. It was just something really enjoyable. About 5-6 years ago, maybe less than that, the Somerset Patriots actually became the AA affiliate for the New York Yankees. Now, there's always a chain reaction, right? And so the Yankees used to be in Trenton, at least before that, with the Trenton Thunder. And then when the Yankees moved into Trenton, the team that moved out was really, it was a Boston Red Sox affiliate. It was still the Trenton Thunder, but the Yankees went down into Trenton, and that was their affiliate. I always thought the Somerset Patriots would get a AA team. I always thought it was going to be the Mets, though, just because the Yankees were down in South Jersey. I figured the Mets would have gotten that area, but apparently the Yankees had said absolutely not. Again, it's all about flexing your muscles, basically, I guess. So Somerset actually became an affiliated club at that point. And I lost interest in the Somerset Patriots in a way because it was just different. It was kind of cool, being independent, and just personal preference, right? Um, the minor leagues, like something like a double A or triple A, you've got the guys that are trying to make it to the big league level. Really is what it comes down to, right? You go through the process, single A, low C's, low single A, advanced at least, and it's changed over the years because they got rid of some of the teams basically, which sucked as well, because a lot of these areas, these parts of the country lost, you know, something they had loved for years. So you go, single, double, triple A, and you make it to the show basically. Independent League baseball, again, the Atlantic League, there was the Northwest League, and the Independent League actually became the Can-Am League at one point. So again, there was all this movement back and forth. I'm not even sure really what's what at this point anymore because I haven't followed it as closely, and I probably will now just to check it out. But where I live in South Carolina, just outside of Charlotte, the Gastonia Ghost Peppers are part of the Atlantic League now, I think. So it's more teams, different teams, I should say. But the Atlantic League, I always felt was, you had the guys who just love the game so much they can never give it up. And this is not a knock on anybody at all. I think people just kind of assume that, minor league level, you're just trying to, you're working your way up to the show. Independent league, a little bit different because, you can try out, and a lot of these teams had open tryouts every year for folks to play. Um, and there were just a certain group of folks you always kind of saw there. You had the players that, maybe their time in the majors had come to an end, but they didn't want it to come to an end, so they would go to different independent teams. And Ricky Henderson came to the Atlantic League. The Canseco brothers were in the Atlantic League, and I'm missing a couple of other ones. I know. I want to say Ruben Sierra might have been to the Atlantic League at different teams, and it helped boost the attendance. People came out to see, hey, former major league players. And it was a chance if they had any gas left in the tank, they would play there and maybe get. And I think Ricky Henderson after that did get called back up to. He went to the Dodgers for a year or so. So it does happen. And then you've got the guys who just never made it in the draft. They weren't drafted by a major league, affiliate. They never made it into their minor, the farm system, and they would go and try out with the Atlantic League. So I think with the Atlantic League, especially the younger guys that came in, they were playing to prove a point. Not that the other guys weren't, but they were trying to get back. But the younger guys were trying to get in there and be seen, so that way they could have a shot at maybe getting signed by the major league club and end up in a single or a double A. So it's just a different time. I mean, it was just fun going to a lot of these games, and that's and kind of circling back to the hat thing is that. I think it was the Lakewood Blue Claws, if I remember correctly. Lakewood, I don't know if they still are. They were a single A of the Phillies farm system. And they've only been around maybe right around the same time the Patriots came into play, so right around that same time frame. But they had a gift shop, and if I remember exactly, they had all the major league team caps there. It was funny. It was really cool, actually broken down by division and National League, American League, the whole thing. But they would have if it was pick a team, whatever team it was, they would then have the cap of each um, level below it. So it was, the majors, then you had triple A, double A, and then all the single A teams. And the thing about the minor league ball clubs, at least from what I remember, I don't know how much of it's changed over the years. They had some fantastic logos and mascots and just the names of the teams. I think the one cap I have, I don't know where it is. I might have actually gotten rid of that one. I want to say it was the Montgomery Biscuits, where it was just like a blue cap, and I think at the time they were part of the Tampa Bay farm system. It was a biscuit with some eyes, and the tongue was like made out of a square of butter, something like that. But it was just cartoonish. It was cool, and So I always kind of got into that. If I was going somewhere, I didn't usually get a shirt because the shirts over time they fade away. I mean, this hat again, it's quite a few years. I mean, you're talking almost 25 years old now, maybe that cap. And I did get in a backup. Just about a year or two before Somerset did make the move to Double A for the Yankees. I got another one. This is still says Somerset, but I think as when they made the jump, this had to be 2019 or 2020 because I believe in 2021 is when Somerset became the affiliate. I'm sure there's some pinstriping now on the caps and pinstriping in the uniforms, um, but Somerset was a big draw back in the day. Sparky Lyle was the manager for quite a while. I mean, former Yankee, why not have him on? So he was definitely and Somerset, from what I can gather and remember, and I could be wrong here, at least that and maybe it still is to this day. They were I would say they were most successful team in that league. 7 championships, 13 division title. I don't know the exact numbers, and I think the Long Island Ducks were right behind them. Maybe a few championships less than that. But Somerset had quite the team. Actually, Somerset had the son of former Yankee Greg Nettles, Jeff Nettles. I think even third base. Was he third base? I know Nettles was third base. Nettles Senior, I guess we'll call. I don't remember if Jeff was third base. He might have been. Um, but I got to meet him a couple times. Super cool. And just again, they always had some great things for the crowds. They had some fun times, fun things you can do with the family, and they were all very gracious. I mean, it was just a different time. So when you can find your favorite cap, it brings back a lot of those memories. And even the again, I don't know how long it had been since I was missing this, but you throw it back on and it just fits like it did when I first got it, which is just crazy that it hasn't shrunk at all. Um, the one thing that you always got from folks is, when they see Patriot, or they tell you what team is, I go to Patriots. Oh, they suck. Jets rule. Folks, it's a baseball team. Just thank you for playing. Um, and this hat ain't too bad either. It is fitted. Um, it's just a little bit bulkier in a way. But, same colors basically. And I think the Somerset Patriots, even with the Yankee affiliate, have kept most of those colors for the most part. But, this might be a sign to go out and see a game maybe in Gastonia, the Ghost Peppers. It's reasonably priced. And that's why I used to go with my buddies. We would go to New Jersey and $1 to park see the Cardinals up in Sussex, New Jersey. It was in a cornfield as well. The stadium sat in a cornfield, which was wild. Again, Field of Dreams vibes, the whole thing. And right now, I think right now up in that same stadium, it's independent. It went from the New Jersey Cardinals to the Sussex Skyhawks, I believe, which was an independent team, and it's still an independent team with the Sussex Miners, I believe, is what it is right now. The same colors as like the Steelers and even like App State College up this way in North Carolina. But some great memories. It really and very affordable. Oh, some of the other teams in the air, like the Can-Am League. Now I'm thinking about it. The New Jersey Jackals were part of it. Over on Montclair State University Stadium, actually Yogi Berra Stadium. So that was the town Yogi Berra was from. So the stadium was named there. There's a museum there. Never got to the museum when I was up there. So maybe one day, who knows? But again, it comes down to just your favorite ball cap and little things like that. Make your day because not only is it cool to find it and you like wearing it, but it just brings back a lot of other memories. A true trip down memory lane. Like it just you remember parking and paying and the games that were really good and the games that were rainouts and the games that were great seats. And actually, the first time I ever caught a foul ball was at a Somerset Patriots game, sitting on the third base side, pop up, lefty batter. I'm on the third base side, just beyond the dugout, and pop up. I don't remember names or anything, but it was a pop up. Came in, it bounced on the dirt in the foul territory, and it came over, and there was a railing which would have gone into the bullpen, I think. And I just kind of leaned over and I got it. That ball is somewhere because I collect memorabilia. I haven't kept all of it over the years, but I know that ball is somewhere. If I ever find it, I'll share it with you, here or something. But uh, little things make all the difference, right? Bad days, good days, terrible days. But this was a nice moment to find this, and it kind of puts you in a different frame of mind, and you're just happy. Um, it's the little things that they just kind of make us smile. I guess no other way to describe it. So minor league base. So again, the hat. It starts thinking, the memories of minor league baseball and the independent games and all that. And you think about the stadiums you've been to, and you think about stuff you haven't thought about in a long time. Going out to Scranton to see. At that time, it was the Red Barons, I think it was, who were part of the Phillies organization. And I went out that way, out and back. It was like a 3-hour drive to see the Columbus Clippers come in, which were the Yankees AAA, to see Bucky Dent and hope he would sign a ball for me. And it turned, you wait there, and it turns out just before like they go back into the clubhouse before the game starts, he signed the ball for me. I think I hung out for an inning or two, and I had to make the trip back home. So you think about the stadiums you've gone to, where you've seen games, and little things like that. It just makes a difference. Um, I don't know. Just thought I'd share that with you. When you're my age, you think about these things. Or at least when the memories come flooding back, they do come flooding back, and it's just fun to think about. And you hope, again, a lot has changed, and a lot is going to continue to change. It's all about making money and the marketing. And some of these stadiums I used to go to, where it was like a couple hundred people showed up, I would sit there all night just hanging, watching a baseball game. You could hear everything clearly because there's nobody in the stands, so you could hear what's going on in the dugouts, and just the chatter between catcher and pitcher when it came to that. Go get a hot dog or something. Again, you're paying maybe $1 for a hot. It was very affordable, and I don't know. Those days are gone for the most part. So you know, good times. How about you? Any good times? What did this spark any good times for you? As far as memories, um, it did for me, obviously. So I'd like to hear from you. Let's go. Let's hear it. Later.